Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time I have a band from Russia, which hasn't been really active in terms of albums anyway, lately that is. This one is their third album, and this was originally released already in 2016, but this is a reissue from 2018. So that gives you a little bit of indication of what's going on. The album is called Last Day in Other Diseases, and comes with a rather grim, but in my opinion, beautifully drawn cover image. That is quite fitting for this whole album here, because this is not exactly a happy album. Well, that is something that I could say for a couple of reasons. As you can see, there are no lyrics whatsoever, just this beautiful cover booklet, if you will. And then we have the CD released by Grim Distribution, also from Russia. And that's the back side of this. And the band is called the Sullen Route. And as you can see here, Sullen Route 2016, Grim Distribution 2018. So already quite old an album. But digging through my backlog, this is something that comes up every now and then. So as you can see, this band was founded in 2008. That is, if you're watching this actual review. And here in the melodic side, you will see all these albums, all these releases by the band. Now, since this album, it seems that the band has put out an EP and a single, 2019, 2020, respectively. But, like I said, no full-length albums in 5 years. Who knows if this year will be something different. But then again, the band was more or less split up or on a hiatus for a few years. So that pretty much explains everything here. Now, what makes this album and the band interesting is that they seemingly, I haven't heard the previous one, so I'm just trusting this side blindly, started with somewhat melodic doom death metal and later on moving to more like progressive doom and alternative metal. Now, this is probably the reason why I don't like this four-man album that much, because it's actually a combination of different styles that, in my opinion, don't match and all way too well. That is basically what you hear on the basic crown on this album is kind of a doom metal. I mean, it's mostly slow-paced. It's kind of a doomy in the terms of atmosphere here. It's very dark in a ways. Not black metal, dark and sinister and all that, but kind of a melancholic and not exactly happy music. So it's not like this is an uplifting soundtrack for your day or work, but that's not why I don't like it. I mean, I'm totally cool and very much enjoying very, very dark and sinister albums, so often even melancholic types. But this is picking the wrong berries from the tree, so to speak. That is, while these elements that could be here well done are not exactly that. The album is nicely executed when it comes to production. This sounds very heavy and kind of a clear and crisp, this being mentioned. But there are elements which just go into wrong direction. That is, if you ask me. I know not other people are not asking but my opinion about it. But in my opinion, this is putting these elements together the way that they don't really fit. Couple of Lego bricks which you just force into together. And when you get frustrated, you just take your lighter and melt them together. And like, that's how you build Lego bricks. If that doesn't really make sense, I'll try to rephrase. Now, take some doom metal, take some melodic death metal, take some alternative melodic metal, and then you just kind of combine them. You maybe are able to do it all seamless and all. And then you take a look at the result and say, okay, it looks like a Frankenstein's monster, but I want that being to live. I want that creature to take a walk into the city and people to behold it. And people are like, what the fuck? That's what I feel about this album. It's like as if these different elements are not the best of both worlds kind of thing, but more about weird mutations just glued together and then like, okay, that's the best thing we could do. Let's move on. And unfortunately, I feel the band went into wrong direction. Maybe that's why they split up. I don't know. Now the thing here is, well, the production is heavy and this actually kind of lures you in like, hey, this is actually sounding quite nice. After a while, I started to get either bored or annoyed, depending which part of the any given song was played. Like, vocals on some parts are just your typical Crowley vocals, and as such, like, quite decent. But then you have these somewhat cleaner vocals. Not exactly clean, because they kind of had this raspy sound, like, rock and roll is way of singing, but not exactly rolling. And that's kind of like, oh no, that's not really good. And some of these riffs are just like, why would you bother? Skip, skip, skip. That's what I'm feeling. I don't skip when I'm listening. So all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that this album pushes the wrong buttons in a wrong order. So while it's not necessarily bad as such, I find this combination of things here rather a faulty one. For me, it's more like a displeasing listening experience rather than anything else. Like I said, I can give quite a bit of credit to the production here, which makes it somewhat tolerable an album. But when it comes to songwriting and the music, definitely not my cup of tea. I think this is a little bit on the worse side rather than being just mediocre and just okay. Now, my warnings being said, obviously you wanna decide for yourself. If you think you still want to hear this album, click those links in the description box and go enjoy it. I think you really can enjoy it, but maybe I'm wrong. I hope to be wrong. I hope that you can enjoy it. I couldn't, but that's not what you might feel about it. This being said, give it a go or give it not. See you and bye bye.